All right, so I'm here with my man Matty.
Yo.
We just did a little sound check, and
1, 2.
this is the first podcast from the Plenty of Love studio. So neither of us have really done this before. We're both a little bit nervous, but we're just going to roll with it and chat. And so the first thing I wanted to ask you about, Matty, was basically...
Who am I?
Who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself. I first met you through a Viral Happiness event, and then I found out that that was your baby. You created that and you started that. And so tell us a little bit about your backstory and how that all came to be.
Well, before moving to Melbourne, Melbourne's where the Viral Happiness project originally began. But before moving to Melbourne, I was in Sydney for quite a few years, bartending and finding my feet in events management. So I was creating my own events, which were called Space Cadets, which was the ethos of that event was similar to what has happened with Viral, but still from a very different place. It was a lot more drug culture. But one thing that was heavily represented in the space that was different than what I saw happening elsewhere was the ability to be whoever you wanted to be and to be able to express whatever you needed to express and feel that comfort within a space. Because when I went into nightclubs and venues and events throughout the city, that's one thing I always felt was the hierarchy of coolness within an event and where people sat on that and the anxieties and pressures, social pressures that gave me and others. So I strived to create an event that didn't exist with that so much, but you held everyone at a pretty similar level, which didn't take off but regardless was still a really amazing time in my life. And a lot of the people that did attend those events at a regular basis had felt that, and it was really obvious. So yeah, and then a few negative events happened towards the lead up of me leaving Sydney, and then I moved to Melbourne. Even moving to Melbourne, I moved back with my mother, which was the first time I'd lived with her for quite some time, since I was 14.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't grow up in Sydney though. You grew up in Adelaide,
South Australia.
Australia.
So originally from South Australia,
Mm-hmm.
and then moved to Sydney when I was 18, and then just started trying to find my feet and figure out what I desire to be and who I am, with not much clear direction, but all the energy towards just experiencing life, and which I did very much so. So yeah, moving to Melbourne, in hindsight now, has been such a beautiful thing, and has exposed me to so many amazing things. But where it all really starts is festival culture, to be honest. Is like, for me, the first thing that really struck me was I went to a few small festivals with I moved to Melbourne off a complete whim. One day I was riding my bicycle home in Sydney from work in King's Cross, and it was probably 2 a.m. in the morning. And as I'm riding home, I just ride past these two guys standing next to a bin, and one of them's throwing up in the bin, and the other is helping him, like assisting them. And that wasn't the strangest thing to see in the area which I was in, but something really drew me to go back and talk to them. So much so that I physically turned my bike around and went back and talked to them. So I did. We're having a discussion, and turns out they lived in Melbourne. And as much as that was such a short and brief interaction, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to explore it more. And that was like one of many things that then pulled me towards moving to Melbourne. Upon coming here, that friend group and those people then showed me their networks, and I became a part of what they're up to. And they also in that showed me festival culture, which was something that was completely new to me at that point. Their experiences we had as a tight-knit group, and these people just quickly were like very loving and sharing and kind and honest people, and to be able to explore that kind of a space with friends like that was something that I didn't really know yet either.
Did you find that was something that was missing or something different from the party clubbing culture?
Definitely. There was a lot more immediate falseness in clubbing culture, and definitely there wasn't really time for conversation or the readiness to communicate honestly to one another. There was a lot of facade and just people enacting who they wanted others to think they were instead of to enact who they desired to be. And when I spent my time around, so it was only small festivals that I started at. There was nothing prolific like the bigger festivals we're seeing now, like the Rainbow Serpents and the Maitreya's and the Earth Cores or things like that. But the experiences were nothing smaller, nothing short of amazing.
So let's take it back for a second for people who don't know what viral happiness is. What is it? What is it all about?
Well, yeah, viral happiness is a space where the essence of viral happiness is that to see somebody else explore or display something that they're not only passionate about but truly enjoy, you know, and in a social environment. So this isn't in a performance kind of situation or watching a video of them in their bedroom. It's watching them in a circumstance where everyone's enacting normal, what we view as normal. So when someone is in said normal environment enacting what's inside them that they really want to display or share, or just even the joy that they have, is highly contagious.
And this is through the medium of circus arts and flow arts.
Well, the viral happiness front moves in on that leg. That's where we started. We started with displaying. I want to start it in a different place. Can I move the story back a bit?
Yeah, we don't have to go in chronological order.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the lead in is that after going to festivals and through those mediums, the one thing that just sat with me really heavily was that I couldn't understand why people could act like that within that space, but couldn't act like that in everyday life. And that there was a very clear difference between what people were allowed to act like and be like and the freedoms they're allowed to display within a festival environment, and then what that would all be lost when they came back. And a combination of that and then my ever-pressing view of the world being damaged and hurt and needing support was kind of the amalgamation which led to viral happiness beginning. Once I sat back after going to some of these amazing events and thinking about the skill set that I had and what I desired to see different in the world, I decided the best thing I could do was go and stand outside and show people my joy, not show them because I wanted to be competitive or show them because I wanted to show them what they didn't have, but show them because it was possible for everyone. And enact as a bit of a just display that. And I've found myself in loads of embarrassing situations over the next year of my life. I'd spent a lot of time standing on Sonson Street with a single staff and a boombox. Would just play music. I was always conscious of the music that I played, that it was something that was approachable for everybody. You know, I think that's the frame of mind that needs to be in play when you're pumping out music for others as well. You know?
So no gangster rap or screamo.
No gangster rap or screamo or heavy rock. Street. No, it was generally like jazz or something fun and playful. And I just spin my stick. And at this point, I knew nothing about fire arts or circus or acrobatics or performance, like nothing, literally nothing. And I would just spin the shit out of this stick. In spinning the shit out of that stick, lots of people had a great time watching me, and also the people would come up and communicate with me. And I'd consistently learn more from individuals coming up and just sharing one thing at a time with me. Over time, shoot to 6 months later, I've now found a spot which I really enjoy, which is O'Donnell Gardens in St Kilda, which is just in front of Luna Park. So this area is just somewhere I really enjoy. There's a high flux of people consistently through summer. There was trees for my slackline. By this point, I'd gotten into slacklining. And
it's like the Venice Beach of Melbourne.
Definitely. With all the tastes, but yeah, lots of tourists are there. There's lots of people ready to have a conversation, and there's lots of growth. I find now that I don't go there as much because of the alcohol culture again, but like still, I really enjoy that space. So I'd spend maybe 4 days a week there by this point, I'd actually stopped working as well.
Yep.
So when I first moved to Melbourne, I did have work, but by the time I was hanging out in St Kilda and I was with my slackline, I decided to stop working, and this ambition of mine was really growing. I'd put that in front of money and financing my living or moving towards the destination, which was career driven. I decided that this feeling I was having and that what I was seeing people experience from me and my interactions was worth treating as a full-time job. So I did, and that continued for quite some time. Slowly, it started to snowball into other people not only being curious or receiving joy from my desire to do that, they wanted to participate. And the thing that connected with me really quickly was once one person started to participate and I would walk them through how to stand on a slackline or how to spin a staff or how to do the things which I weren't that high level at the time. It was still quite basic, but I was teaching what I knew. Once I was teaching people, I realized that I was no longer spending my days enjoying myself, but teaching others, which was a little bit, I wasn't so impressed with because I was still there to have fun too. And that was a part of the concept. So that's when I started to realize that I could actually teach someone the first few steps, introduce them to the new person and get them to teach them the first few steps. And on top of that, they'd then make friends. So I've not only given them both a new skill, but I've also made them, helped them make friends. In this environment, learning a skill together, which was actually more valuable than me making friends with these people or me teaching them the skill. Then they've got a partner or a friend on the same level as them who they can learn together with. So that was really where Viral started. Or Viral Happiness started, seeing the interactions people were able to have together.
And I think it's such a great name, Viral Happiness. Just it is that that spread, of joy when people get together being creative and someone's learning something, and it doesn't matter if a basic chi roll on a dragon staff and someone sees you doing that and says, "Oh wow, that looks great. Can you show me how to do that?" As long as you know one little bit more than the other person, you can share that little bit of knowledge with them, and then they'll, usually have something back to share with you, and it creates this really deep and shared space of learning and creativity. And
people often doubt themselves as being a teacher because we assume that we need to know it all before we can teach. But I disagree. If people are going to come and pay for lessons with a certificate at the end, then possibly that's a good place to start. But when it comes to teaching, you can teach from the beginning, and just share the knowledge that you know. And then when someone else is learning, you can share that knowledge. And you find that it grows a lot quicker in that way too. I think that's the thing I like the most about coming to these events and festival culture more in general, just how rapidly your roles change from moment to moment. One moment you're learning something, the next moment you're teaching someone something, the next moment you're learning again, and it just goes back and forth like this. And it's really great to not have a hierarchy in a group. Everyone has something to share with you, and you can learn something from everyone. So that's really cool. Well, so in time to come, after we'll jump ahead from having developed it into... First, I wasn't really sure about how to execute this to begin with. So I knew what it felt like, and I knew what I was trying to achieve, and it didn't really have a name yet, and I didn't really know how to execute it, or what the labeling was. So at first, I started doing just meetups, general meetups in areas where I would run people through some yoga and some a few spinning, like a few different moves with spinning, which looking back was really almost comical, the level in which I was at. But there was still between 20 to 50 people coming to these events, and I think it was more the drive to learn something new and also the energy behind it. We moved into an indoor venue over winter, and we were practicing circus arts once again. The hilarity in which what we were learning and what we were practicing makes me laugh now, but the energy in that space and how we were all feeling leaving it was so important, and has stood to take us to a lot of places. Things really took a turn once another gentleman, Ethan Cotter, came on board. So Ethan, an amazing point spinner and circus artist from Queensland. I know his precise location, but not off the top of my head this moment, it would seem. But had moved to Melbourne to join NICA. And upon going to NICA, the National Institute of Circus Arts, had realised that it didn't really fit what he was trying to achieve within circus and within performance arts. And him and I had met in a few different situations over the course of the year, but hadn't really taken off yet. I caught pneumonia. I had pneumonia during the end of 2014, during winter, maybe even 2013. Times rough, but I contracted pneumonia, and then and then I was really sick, and I was still trying to run these events, and I was going out of my way to still put on events, and I have some very clear memories of like the struggle, how hard it was to be doing that, and the condition in which I was.
Rolling out of bed, coughing up your lungs, and
it was just
crawling your way to the.
I was in a lot of physical pain, and it was not fun. So at that point, that's when people started to realize that I needed help, I guess, and that I was already hell bent on doing this thing.
Well, knowing you just for this short time, you'll put on a brave face or a smile, however you're feeling, and I could imagine it would have taken a lot for people to see that, maybe you weren't feeling so crash hot. So people did catch on, and
well, Ethan Cotter was the first.
Yep.
And he definitely came on board like with a ridiculous amount of energy and with a lot of ideas. So once I started to operate as not only just a solo but a team, things really started to take off, because I wasn't just existing with my energy. And at this point, neither of us had a car, so we didn't drive. We started to collect equipment, and within months to come, we had more equipment than we could carry. We were pushing around a skateboard loaded up to our shoulders, full of equipment, which we'd be getting all the way across the other side of the city on trams, on trains. By this point, we'd called it Viral Happiness, and we were running events on a weekly basis. And we were traveling, 20 to 40 kilometers to run a session on public transport with all of this equipment, which was fantastic. A lot of the interactions we had on public transport were just part of the fun.
I can imagine.
And sharing that space too. So we ran that, and we kept growing it. We figured out our structure. We started to design how we wanted it to be. We then called the sessions that we did the Sunday sessions, and decided we'd do them once a week. And the team continued to grow.
And just to jump in for a second,
Go for
Sunday sessions are pretty much world famous now. I've been through India and Southeast Asia, where I've met people who have found out I'm into slacklining, circus arts, spinning, and all of that. And they say, "Hey, do you know Viral Happiness? Have you been to Sunday sessions before?" And yeah, I mean that's so cool. How far and wide that's spread. And you created that, man. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So when even for myself, when I went to Edinburgh Fringe Festival 2 years ago, and when I was spending time there, which is Scotland, which feels like the other side of the world. It's very far from here, and to have people share those experiences with me in that space, not knowing who I was or that I generated that, was really heartwarming. And a big part of why it's been driven this far and why it's still persisting is purely the feedback. Like what the responses we've been able to get from others and the stories that I hear about how it's affected their lives is the driving force in which we continue to do this. Because obviously individuals change and grow. The stories that we're talking about now are years past of my life, and not necessarily the present, but no less important. And I think one thing that constantly reminds me of what is important is the stories from others about how these events have affected them and allowed them to grow. But I think at this point, like, maybe it's worth talking about what the events have become, as instead of what they were growing into.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the events now take the form, like we said, of the Sunday sessions. And the biggest thing that changed when we started to implicate the Sunday sessions, and we named it, and the structure that we started to put in, was that we brought workshops. We brought workshops at the space. We had a physical board which would bring, and we'd contribute whatever we could to the day, and we'd really invoke that other people were then teaching too. And the people that were teaching weren't professionals. They were enthusiasts. And a lot of the people around the space, haven't taught really before. They were bedroom spinners or people that did it for their own privacy and their own joy. But then being able to share that with others was such a satisfaction for them. The amount of people that I've seen come through viral and not only grow skills but then teach them back into the community is more than I could not only remember but recite to you now. And then as we continued to grow, we brought things like, kitchen space where we'd share food and I'd serve food to people and beverages. And then the fire circles. And the fire circles were another huge growing point.
Yeah. Those communal food tables are, one of the most epic parts about the viral meetups. A lot of the stuff's dumpster dived and a lot of delicious home cooked things. It's one of my favorite parts about it.
And on some of the larger events that we run too, we also pre-cook and organize all of the food as well and bring things that we heat it with or serve. And we do hot, cold beverages depending on, temperature requirements. I think those small comforts, when I really look back and I think of like why it is that all of these things have been implemented, it's just to create that comfortable space, to create that environment. You don't want someone to have to leave because they're hungry, and you don't want someone to have to leave because they're thirsty. It's really important that the space is able to provide that, or that we're able to organize it in a way that people bring it. And these aren't really that difficult of a things when we think about it, but they are important. And it's what makes this a full rounded experience. And we'll touch on the fact that this was a state of chaos in the sense that once Ethan was on board, him and I were running these events and they just grew out of nowhere. It went from 10, 15 of us catching up once a week to 200-300 in the space of 4 months. And it was so much growth on such a short period of time that we almost didn't know what to do with it or how to handle it. So it took us a good year or two of just running the events to keep up momentum to really kind of grasp how to handle it or what to do. And like donations, for example, is how we continue to keep ourselves afloat, so we can buy food to share with people or continue to purchase equipment to share with people as well, or the fuel that we burn in the evenings. So like having now the equipment load's pretty large. And
well, you need a bus to cart that stuff around.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen all your equipment. It's here with us in the garage right now.
Just over there.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it.
I don't think you could fit that on a tram anymore.
No, definitely not.
Or on a skateboard.
No. So I guess like where we're getting at with the story I'd like to tell, I guess, is that the most rewarding thing in my life up until this point has been really chasing that ambition that is unspoken or unheard but felt, and something that I hadn't had someone tell me to do, but I felt the need to do. And by getting out there and enacting that, I've really entered a fulfilling state in my life. And that fulfilling state isn't something that comes from my finances or what I own, but more from the interactions I've been able to share with the people in my life. And it's a ripple effect. Those interactions only breed more. Even us sitting here now is the effect of that. So
it's a difficult thing to put into words, but obviously it scratched an itch for you and for all the people that became part of the events and who have passed through. I think it's a beautiful thing to get people together, to learn and share and then grow as a community, because you were talking earlier about what you called the comical level of the skills of everyone at the time, but a lot of people have come out and now are performers coming through the play and the jamming and the workshops have grown to a level of skill that this is something that sustains their life and that they can share with others. So that is a super epic thing.
It is pretty funny, and that is a huge part to do with the individuals that have involved themselves. I think my role amongst this entire thing at the end of the day has been driving force. I've been continuously the driving force of movement here, and as we've grown ourselves from a place of circus and fire arts and performance, that I see as really hand in hand with what my co-worker, the person who would work with me previously, Ethan, that was his vision and his dream as well as mine, but my dream has really been to drive people.
Yep.
And now that this has been created into something that's not only alive but running, I want to see it viral happiness take on other art forms, and I see it being a support network to grow art forms that are coming out of the people. So flow arts and prop manipulation, and which is where we've really centered ourselves, has been something that has been underdeveloped in Australia and hasn't had the support networks it needs to grow. And now we've done a really big part, the Viral group has done a really big part in helping that evolve and giving it the platform. And I hope to see Viral support other art forms the way that we've supported this one, and to allow public events in this format of free to access and the sharing from that beautiful place in their heart to approach other art forms and have them develop the same way, or have them develop and hold that space for it too.
Yeah, that's super cool. But I'm sure along the way, there's been some hurdles and there's been some difficult times as
Definitely.
well. There's been so much good that's come out of it, but what have been some of the like the challenges or some of your biggest failures kind of coming up through that? Maybe like a favorite failure that you look back on that had a lot of positivity but seemed like pretty like ground shattering, life shattering at the time.
There's no real favorite failure. They're all still hard lessons.
Maybe most memorable is a better way to put it.
But the lesson I keep learning here is being a leader, because this is something I so strongly believe in, and it's something that I continue to involve others in. The hardest lesson I've had to learn is in being a leader, the difficulties that come with that and the personal growth. And it's hard to stand at the front of something and make decisions for everybody from a non-personal place, especially when my underlying skill set definitely doesn't come from that place. So the lesson I've had to keep learning, and probably my favorite, which I keep is just the patience and the time to really listen to others and what they need, and the energy to be able to not only take that on board but use that information to develop what I'm working towards. But in running any kind of community event and in standing at the front of something and trying to steer it, there's a lot of complications that you're going to come across. But the only real solution that I've found is to listen to the individuals that are helping you develop that, and also to the people that are attending it or around it, who it's affecting. That's really that's that's awesome. Well, something I like really respect and admire about you is how you're always trying to increase your skill set and and increase your base of knowledge and learning in a way that you can continue to grow through these projects, whether it be Viral or the new projects you're working on, like the Burning Seed theme camp that you've just started, kind of starting to put some time and energy and thought into. And also it seems like your work ethic is pretty amazing. It doesn't seem like you can start something like this without really knowing how to like knuckle down and really put your back into something. But I mean, just recently, today you got a job doing some steel fabrication. Completely new to me.
And a couple of weeks ago, you started back into hospitality, and you're explaining to me how for you this is learning, and even though it's a job, you're getting paid for it. There's another reason behind it. You've got the hospitality, the networking side of that, the meeting people, making connections, for possible future fundraising and just growing your network. And then you've got the steel fabrication, the craft, the manual labor side, which I mean the things you can do with steel work, you know, the props.
Or even just with physical skills, the more you can understand with building and developing the better things you're able to generate and create in physical form.
Yeah. I mean, like before that, you know, you're working in carpentry and yeah, lots of other labor jobs. So like you've got this skill set, which is super awesome. And yeah, all of this stuff is going.
I think the one thing I've told myself a lot over the past few years is that if you can't work hard, you can't work hard towards what you love. And so if you don't learn to work hard in general, how do you expect to work hard on the things that you're passionate about? And so to be able to really make your passions be driven to somewhere that is, I don't want to use the term like the end or there, because that doesn't really exist. You know, you'll always find a new platform, but to really drive the things that you're passionate about, you have to learn how to drive, how to work hard. And that's been the goal of mine for the past few years of my life as well. Once I've developed the understanding of more what it is that I want, and this being a leader, being able to help lead others into really being a leader themselves. I don't aim to lead people into being subservient to myself, but to lead them into believing in themselves. And in turn developing them into leaders to do the same for others again. And having us be a world full of leaders capable of supporting each other and helping drive these trains or the little trains towards their goal. You know, this isn't a job that I want to take on by myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I was talking to our mutual friend Will yesterday. We had a long car ride together. He's a fire manipulator and wizard and all-around awesome guy who I hope also to have on the podcast sometime in the very near future. But he was saying that there's two types of leadership. You know, there's the type of leadership where, you know, you're stepping over other people and trying to hold everyone down, you know, to get to the top and use everyone else's work to prop yourself up. Or there's the kind of leader who, you know, stands at the back and just helps everyone move forward and moving forward together. You know, we have so much more out of that. And, you know, clearly that's the kind of leader that you're trying to be. I
dare say I've seen myself in the first one too. And that it takes bearing witness to your shortcomings to be able to grow from it. And I've definitely caught myself in more of the first one at times, because especially when you're running your own creative projects, it's easy for ego to become a part of that. But yeah, like I said earlier, that's why I mentioned the comment that I did for my most favorite failure is my most favorite failures come from that being a bad leader. So, and learning what it is to be a good one by being a bad one. Yeah. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about the Burning Seed theme camp and, you know, what your vision and direction is with that, or is it too soon to start? It's too soon. We're moving close, but like, just if you don't know what Burning Seed is already, it's an amazing environment. It's Australia's Burning Man, and it's an amazing environment where artists are able to display the things they're working on and bring creations to life, and it really helps support that network. So I aim to use the skills that I've been generating to move backwards in a sense towards more of the party atmosphere and generating that type of environment, but more towards the viral essence and what I've helped generate there. The cool thing about Burning Seed as compared to the other festivals we spoke about earlier is it's more of a self-generated festival, I guess. There is not like one governing body who's, you know, creating the lineups, setting up all the spaces and doing all the building and everything. It's literally a blank canvas for people to come in with their own ideas, with their own theme camps, with funding, I think. It's not a great deal of funding. I think the most funding they receive is $1,000, but that's for very large projects. But general funding is about $200 to $500, and anyone that's doing their first year doesn't get any funding. So you only receive funding on returning. So you're funding this through hospitality and hard labor. That's it. That's it. Definitely. And there will be some fundraising and stuff too, but yeah, that's all a part of the fun. Yeah, awesome. All right, well, I know you don't have too much time. You got to get out tonight, and this has been absolutely epic. Do you have anything, anything you'd like to say?
anything to the audience, anything about your message that you'd like to leave us with?
I guess don't ever stop listening. Listening to what's calling you, because it's really easy to shut off, and it's really easy to not pay attention, I guess. And when you I think, just continue to listen. Keep your ears open. Listen to yourself. Listen to what the world's asking for. Listen to what's going on around you, and take that in. And I find that you'll end up steering yourself in some pretty beautiful directions.
Yeah.
And then let life and its adventures continue from there.
Amen, brother. That's awesome.
Thank you for having me at the Plenty of Love studio.
Yeah.
It's been a beautiful evening, and I look forward to returning and seeing what else comes of this.
Totally. Definitely a part 2 sometime in the near future. And so where can people find you and Viral Happiness online? You got Facebook?
Viral Happiness Group on Facebook. We have a website at viralhappiness.net.
Yep.
But yeah, it's all pretty easy to find. It's a bit of a, I think we're the only people using the name at this point, so just Google it.
Yeah, awesome, man.
All right.
Well, this has been a ton of fun, and yeah, we could talk for hours and hours, but this was a good first round. So yeah, thanks so much for coming down and sitting here and chatting, and yeah, I hope everyone listening enjoyed this, and there'll be more to come in the near future. So much love. Thank you, Matty. All right.
Oh, that's so rough. I'm sorry.
What, the fart?
Yeah.
I can't smell it.
Oh, man.